Thank you so much.
Okay, recording now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the International Conference of Emerging Media and Communication 2021. I'm Dr. Saifuddin. I'm from the School of Communication, UC Science Malaysia, and I will be the moderator for today. On behalf of the School of Communication, UC Science Malaysia, as well as the International Conference of Emerging Media and Communication 2021, I would like to welcome all of you today to this interesting presentation, I hope. Okay, before we get started this afternoon, I have several announcements to help make your presentation more pleasant and productive. First of all presentation will be given maximum 15 minutes for your presentations. And after that, we will have a 5-minute question and answer session. So I hope during that question and answer session, the audience and other presenter can, can give your question to the presenter so that we will have more interactive session today. So in today's session, we also have Miss Kaya Tree from the School of Communication, as well as Mr. Nabil, who will help us to make it the presentation more productive, I guess. Okay. Without further ado, I would like to call upon the first presenter. Today we have 6 presenters, so I would like to call Ms. Benazir Bona Pratamawati, who is going to present about information sources and demographic profile, a case study about human trafficking information in Indonesia. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I would like to share my screen. Is it possible now?
Yes,
okay.
You can press the share screen button down there.
Okay. Is it already shown?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon for all the participants and presenters and also the communities. Today in this great occasion, I would like to present to you my paper titled Information Sources and Demographic Profiles, a case study about human trafficking information in Indonesia. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Benazir Bona Pratamawati, and this article that I will present to you are authored and co-authored by Putri Limilia, Evia Retnius Dewi, and myself. We are from the Faculty of Communication Sciences, Universitas Pajajaran. So I would like to tell you the overview of my presentation. I will talk about the background of the research in the introduction, and then I will describe about how we collect the data in methods and data, and then I will also share about the findings about our research, and then the conclusion. First thing, talking about human trafficking. Human trafficking is nothing new in the world. Yeah, it has been a global problems. I mean, it is about multinational and multi-dimension problem that we have. The crime of human trafficking consists of 3 core elements: the act, the mean, and the purpose. Physical and sexual abuse, blackmail, emotional manipulation, and the removal of official documents are used by traffickers to control their victims. Exploitation can take place in a victim's home country during migration or in a foreign country. Indonesia is a country of origin, transit, and destination for both cross-border trafficking and internal trafficking. Although trafficking cases mostly involve women and children, trafficking in men is increasingly recognized as happening to both Indonesian and foreign nationals within Indonesian territory and overseas. The International Organization of Migration, or IOM of Indonesia, records that the total number of human trafficking victims in the period of 12 years from 2005 to 2017 has reached 8,876, which is dominated by women. However, based on the data, on the current data, that each year the human trafficking victims is significantly high, which reached to 74,000 to 1 million people. To be specific, The total numbers indicate that there is a victim per second in Indonesia. And to eradicate the human trafficking, the government of Indonesia has been conducting various programs, and diverse information sources are utilized to support the program, to support the successful of the program, including the internet. However, the growth of internet and digital media has changed the flow of information, where it is no longer only sourced from the mass media, because each user can be both the information producer and consumer. These changes have made the mass media no longer the primary source of information for the public. As in fact, in Indonesia, Ministry of Communication and Informatics by 2020 records that Indonesian people more often use digital media, especially the internet, as the most frequently accessed source of information. So this condition can be seen where many people seek health information from the internet more than consulting with the health worker. So it brings us to that the internet is often used as a source of information for politics, education, and other aspects. And in Indonesia, in fact, the internet penetration rate has reached 73% of the total population, which is around 196 million users only by 2020. Nonetheless, the level of internet connectivity prevalence in Indonesia is not evenly distributed across regions due to the geographical conditions of Indonesia, which consists of many islands. Moreover, the level of population distribution is not evenly distributed as well. So because of the geographical limitation of internet coverage in Indonesia indicates that although the level of internet penetration is very high, it is not evenly distributed across regions. It is resulted in the selection of public media in areas that do not or have minimal internet connections. Thus, in order to ensure the success of government's programs to eradicate human trafficking in Indonesia, it is significant to map the main source of information or reference media for people in the targeted provinces and districts before developing a strategy for disseminating information on trafficking in persons. In 2017, Indonesia assigned 5 provinces as red zones that have recorded the highest number of human trafficking cases, and they are East Nusa Tenggara, West Java, East Java, West Nusa Tenggara, Central Java, where East Nusa Tenggara holds the first place with the highest number of cases. Then it comes to our purpose of the study, that the study aims to map the types of media among the mass media, the internet, and relational information sources that most often present information on human trafficking in communities in the 3 red zones of human trafficking cases, which are West Java, East Java, and East Nusa Tenggara. The study also aims to see whether there are differences in the exposure of human trafficking information based on gender, living area, generation, and level of education. Next, I would like to talk about the methods and the data. The survey was conducted on communities in 3 provinces in the red zones of human trafficking cases, namely West Java, East Java, and East Nusa Tenggara. And this survey is conducted online due to COVID-19 pandemic. The sample was selected using a quota sampling technique, with the sample size was 327. And the questionnaire consists of 5 parts that function to measure 5 variables, namely gender, area of residence, age, level of education, and sources of information. And the data were analyzed using independent t-test analysis to determine the differences in information exposure based on gender and area of residence. Meanwhile, ANOVA was used to determine the differences between the 4 groups in the age variable and 4 categories in the level of education. So here are some findings. First, about mass media as information sources. The results showed that the respondents have different media preferences in accessing human traffic information, and gender, age, place of residence, and level of education are differentiating factors in selecting information sources, such as the mass media, the internet, and relational information sources. So the first, in human trafficking information, the mass media still becomes a source of information for some respondents. The results show that there was no significant difference in the mean between men and women in obtaining information on human trafficking from the mass media. Previous studies also showed that there were not many, there were no difference or significant difference between men and women in accessing information from the mass media. So in terms of residence category, the respondents living in urban areas tended to have a higher mean score in mass media exposure than in suburban areas. This condition shows that the respondents who live in urban areas get more information about the human trafficking from the mass media compared to the ones living in suburban areas. Our hypothesis from this finding, which consists two hypotheses which need to be tested further. First, urban society has many media choices, not only mass media, but also digital media. Meanwhile, suburban communities tend to have limited options, especially in mass media. For example, maybe in some rural areas, they only have access to television. And in the context of age categories, the results show significant differences in mass media exposure in three generations, namely X, Y, and boomers. The difference characteristic of generation Y from generation X and boomer are driving forces from the difference in scores. The level of generation X and boomers consumption of television, radio, and newspaper, of course, absolutely is higher than generation Y, because generation Y prefer to access online media or digital media. Meanwhile, the level of education does not significantly play a role in differences in the mass media exposure as a source of information on human trafficking. The respondents with various educational backgrounds have started to switch to digital media, so that the level of mass media exposure is pretty low. To conclude, the difference in exposure on human trafficking information from the mass media only occurs in the area of residence and age. Meanwhile, gender and education level did not make a significant difference to mass media exposure. Let's move to the second findings about internet as the information sources. The research saw that women tend to have higher mean score than men in on the internet use. It means that women tend to be more frequently exposed to human trafficking information from the internet when compared to men. The results also indicate a significant difference in scores between respondents who live in urban areas and suburban related to the exposure to information from the internet, where urban areas score is higher than suburban areas. And this result is expected because internet access is not evenly distributed in Indonesia. According to the survey by Internet Providers Association in Indonesia, internet infrastructure in Indonesia tends to be centered on the island of Java and urban centers. As a result, urban people are more often exposed to human trafficking information from the internet because of the high intensity of the use. Meanwhile, in the terms of age categories, Generation Y differs significantly from Generation X and Boomers. The significant difference between Generation Z and Y with Generations X and Boomers is due to the extensive age of range. Because Generation Z and Y are digital natives, meanwhile Generation X and Generation Boomers are both digital immigrants who are unfamiliar with the internet, so that the frequency of use is low. In the context of educational level, the results show significant difference between respondents with the level of primary school education, junior high school, and undergraduate related to the human trafficking information exposure from the internet. It is because The study argues that the difference between primary school and bachelor respondents is due to the low internet penetration rate of primary school respondents compared to the bachelor and higher level respondents. And then we can move to our third finding about relational information sources. So in the context of this study, interpersonal communication is grouped into two, namely interpersonal communications involving family members, and the second one is communication involving non-family members, such as friends, colleagues, and others. The results show no difference in exposure to human trafficking information from family and non-family sources based on gender and place of residence. However, both genders have higher mean scores in the non-family communication category than family. Men and women are both often exposed to information on trafficking from families and non-families. Meanwhile, the respondents who live in urban and suburban areas most often get information about human trafficking from non-family sources. In the context of age categories, the findings show that the Generation X is the generation most frequently informed of human trafficking from families. This differs significantly from Generation Z and Y with lower mean scores. On the other hand, there is no difference in the mean score between the level of education in obtaining human trafficking information from the family in the context of education. Therefore, to conclude, each source of information, mass media, internet, and the relational information sources provides different information on human trafficking exposure to the research respondents. The mass media gives a high level of exposure to female respondents or those who live in urban areas or the respondents in the category of boomer generation, and also respondents with a bachelor and above or higher education level. While internet provides high exposure to human trafficking information on female respondents or urban areas respondents or Generation Z and respondents with bachelor degree or higher educational level. However, the exposure to human trafficking information from relational information sources is much higher than the other two sources. Relational information sources in this study include family source and non-family source. Therefore, this study recommends the government of Indonesia to utilize each information source in accordance with each province's demographic profiles. And before I close my presentation, I would like to thank you to the Directorate General of Higher Education, Ministry of Education and Culture of Republic of Indonesia for the research grant because this article is a part of a larger study titled SDGs Acceleration through the Optimization of Government Communication and the Role of Civic Society in the Attempt to Eradicate Human Trafficking.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think that's the end of the presentation for the first presenter. And thank you for the informative and I think it's very interesting presentation about human trafficking and internet usage by the Indonesian audience. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the question and answer session. So if you have any question to the first presenter, don't forget to mention your name and university. Okay, any questions? You can actually on your microphone or you also can write in the chat box so that I can read the question for you. Any questions from the floor?
Hi, I have a question.
Oh, hi, Dr. Nick.
Hi, Dr. Sai. Dr. Benazir, I think this is a very timely and very interesting research. Thank you very much for presenting this. Yeah, I have a few questions, a very quick one. How do you categorize the mass media? Mass media means what?
Okay, so in the context of this study, the mass media that we refers to are the television, the newspapers, and the radio.
Right. And the relational info sources are family members and friends. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I understand. So when because the objective stating that you are mapping this information. So once you already gotten the map, what is your suggestion from this finding? What is your suggestion to the government of Malaysia? Government of Indonesia, in in trying to curb human trafficking?
Okay, thank you very much for such an interesting question, Dr. Nick. So this is actually a very expected question because we are in an ongoing research. We have 3 years research in this matter about eradicating human trafficking in Indonesia through the government communication. And this is just a little part that we want to map how the government should communicate and how the government should use or utilize the information sources that are available to the targeted people. And the targeted people that we mean in this research context is the 5 red zone provinces. But because of the limited research fund, so we only can cover 3 provinces, which are West Java, East Java, and East Nusa Tenggara. And those 3 provinces have very diverse demographic profiles. For example, in East Nusa Tenggara, there are about 50 to 60% area with no internet coverage. But in West Java, we may only have 20 to 30% area that doesn't have the internet coverage. So Indonesian government has to extra work. They have to collaborate the information sources based on the demographic profiles for each provinces and districts. So they have to, since it is just a preliminary study, we have a more further study in the future, and we are aiming to collect the data for each district in those 3 provinces.
Right, right. Okay, thank you very much. All the best with your research.
Thank you, Dr. Nick.
Thank you, Dr. Nick. Do we have any other question from the floor? Is there anyone who want to ask questions to Ms. Benazir? Indeed, it is a very interesting presentation and discussion just now. Maybe can I ask a question to you?
Yes, yes.
I think I wonder why is that so important for you to study the demographic profile to link with this, to understand this kind of human trafficking issue among Indonesian people, especially why do you want to know between the urban and rural area? Because we already know that their internet usage is different, their exposure is also different. So I wonder why makes you to study the demographic profile influence towards this issue. And also another thing is your study also found that the level of education is not significant so much to this internet usage and exposure to human trafficking. And what is your what is your
hypothesis?
Opinion?
Okay.
Your opinion on this, like why
Okay.
is it the level of education is not significant to Indonesian context?
Okay, thank you. First question about urban and suburban, right?
Yeah, the
So,
demographic profile. Yeah.
Oh, demographic profiles. Okay. So why we have to do the research about the demographic profiles? Because to our surprise, even in a province like West Java, the demographic profiles is very fast difference. I mean, West Java itself is a very big province that cover many areas. If I'm not mistaken, about 28 districts, if I'm not mistaken. And these 28 districts itself has a very different demographic profiles in each district. For example, if you know Bandung, Bandung is such a big city compared to Cianjur. Cianjur is another district in West Java, and Bandung and Cianjur both has different demographic profiles. Although Bandung is a big cities with internet connections and such, and with a very, I mean, sophisticated internet connection, and there are many choices of information sources, there are still many people, many respondents that do not aware about the human trafficking issue. Even the educated person, even the well-educated person. I mean, human trafficking can happen just around the corner of your neighborhood and you have no idea about it. So we are trying to figure out what is wrong with the government communication, with the public communication from the government that makes people do not aware about this current issue. Because if you browsing on the internet about human trafficking, the number goes up, not each year, but each month. I mean, with the advance of technology and internet, people, the traffickers even recruit the person to be trafficked to another places through the social media. And this is really make me anxious, make my team anxious, because many people using internet right now, but they don't know there are many tricks from the traffickers to recruit the human to be trafficking. So it becomes our concern what is happening with the government communication, that even people in a sophisticated area in big cities and people in rural areas have a pretty low knowledge and information about human trafficking issue.
Okay, thank you so much. Very interesting presentation, and also very good finding, I guess, and it's opened our, you know, our knowledge and also understanding about how serious this issue in not only I think in Indonesia but also other countries like Malaysia and around the world, I think, and it is good for us to know that, like you said, we might not know human trafficking actually happening in our neighborhood, maybe our neighbor, you know, and someone live close to us actually, you know, they are affecting by this. Yeah, the traffickers are living near to us.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much. We will get back to you if we have time after all the presentation. If
because I haven't
because
I have not answered your second question yet.
Oh, okay. Maybe you can
it
give
needs
a very
further
short
discussion.
answer.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Please. Thank you so much.
Okay. Later on, we will come back to you. Okay. If we have time, then we come back to you. Okay.
Okay, of course.
All right. Before the second presentation begin, I would like to remind all the presenter that you are given maximum 15 minutes, and I will ring the bell to remind you if the presentation already reached 15 minutes. So without further ado, I would like to welcome the second presenter to deliver the presentation. So the second presenter is Sri Seti Indriani, and she will be presenting their research on parents' involvements and teens movie consumption in the pandemic era. So the floor is yours.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank everyone and for the chances, and also to the participants here. A great welcome to also to the committees. Okay. Our title, I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Sri Seti Indriani, and with my friend Rangga Saptya Muhammad Permana, we have conducted a research which is parents' involvement and teens movie consumption in the pandemic era. So we are also from Pajajaran University. We are from the program Studio of Film and Television in Vkom Unpad. As an introduction, so as we have known that since 2020, there has been a lot of researches related to COVID-19 that has raised so many. And we also know that WHO has urged us all to do social distancing with several measurements such as isolation, quarantine, closing schools, working from home, restricting people's movement, and the cancellation of mass gatherings. The one that we are concerned of the students itself. So students, as from previous research, has encountered what we call as what is academic stress. It is anything, of course, yeah. Saying, for example, paying tuition because they think that they are not satisfied by only online learning, but they have to still pay.
Dr. Sri?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you for a while. I think your voice is starting a bit, we can hear you well. So maybe you can close your video and continue present your presentation. Perhaps the internet is not that stable.
Yes, I know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, very well. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Where am I? Yeah. Okay. Researchers call them as academic stress. Oh, what is academic stress? Academic stress is anything related to academic. For example, paying tuition makes them stressed because they think that online learning is not satisfying, though they still have to pay as much. And then, for example, there has been some cancellation of scholarship or going abroad, like they have to cancel those things. And then also they even have difficulties in consulting with supervisors, promoters, and unable to find references in the library, as the library is also locked down. And also things like tasks, teamwork. It is very hard for them to cope with teamwork if they are online. Students were also, of course, stressed because of internet difficulties, like I have just encountered, like they cannot really get the signal well, or maybe they don't have enough quota, and then because of that they became more stressful and they become more lonely. And then also things that can make them more stressful is because they don't really have entertainments, like they cannot go anywhere because it's restricted, and then they also, because of lack of personal interaction, they also have limited access to public service, and also the anxiety about unfamiliar teaching modalities, maybe not only the students but also the lecturers or the teachers as well. So adolescents who have online learning at home are forced to entertain themselves with indoor activities. What kind of indoor activities are there anyway? That there are not so many. What they can do is go back to online things. So for example, playing online games. And then the second thing they can do is watching movies. So watching movies has now become a trend since 2020, and as Netflix, as one of an online movie application, has gained 204 million subscribers in January alone, 2021, following Amazon Prime with 150 million subscribers. Okay, wait. So what our concerns are that because this become a trend, and then the parents don't really mind it. The concerns are teenagers age 11 until 15 years old seemingly have more freedom and access to select movies without parents' awareness. Parents, especially those who work, have less time to involve themselves. No guidance in watching these movies. As I'm going to give you an example of a movie of a series in the Netflix. It is a Netflix original, which is titled 13 Reasons Why. Maybe participants know this series, but it is a series about a girl that committed suicide. So in there, there is a disclaimer that it is for 18 plus, but as finding turn out that most teenagers below 18 have watched this season. So what is the problem statement here is to acknowledge how adults and gain access to online movies despite the television content rating system, and how their parents' involvement in the adolescents' selections of movies throughout the pandemic era. When we break down the research section, first we want to know how they gain it and how they gain and access the movies, and then the second one is what movies do they actually consume? Are they suitable for them? Are they not? And then the third one is how about the parents? Are they involving themselves or are they not? Because things like this is taken for granted. Most parents are not aware about what children are consuming, and then the thing is that they think it's going to be okay, everything is all right because the children or the teenagers are at home, but actually what they are consuming from movies or also game online are also a bit toxic. So this is a qualitative descriptive approach we're using, and then we conducted interviews of 10 informants. 10 informants included 7 adults, which is in the range of 11 until 14 years old, and also 3 parents. We also made sure that these informants had Netflix application, and then they are very active in watching movies at home rather than playing games. And also the parents are actually at home, or maybe the parents are not working, but also parents that are working online. So findings turns out that, as we have mentioned before, that watching live streams and online movies have become a trend in the pandemic era because of the limited outdoor activities that made people worldwide watch movies online, especially children, adolescents, and young people, and maybe adults. Watching movies and updating status on online media social are second most actively done through the on the scale of 83.1%. As we can see, active in Indonesia, the first one, of course, it's working or studying online, which is in 91.7%, and then reading printed or digital, which is on around 34.3, but the most, but then on the third one is watching movies, which has a scale of 83.1%, and then the rest are posting, updating in social media, cooking, and then tidying up and mediating, and also sport. So the findings showed that most adolescents gain access to movies through application from Netflix, YouTube, Telegram, and illegal website. How do they get inside illegal websites? So, according to some interviews, they said that they got these kind of links from TikTok application because some account gives them some tips and tricks to get illegal links so that they can watch movies that they want. And then second, they got more information from friends. And then adults watch, when we also asked what they actually watch, they actually watch what they want. So most adults that we interviewed, they actually know about the content system ratings. They actually know and they are very aware that there are some rating, like for example, it is not them because they are not more than 13 years old or even 18%. And of course, in Netflix, usually there is some more information related to the movie, which can be like, is it about suicidal things, or is it about violence, or is it about sex, or is it about things that is 18 plus contents, but they don't really care. Why did they not care? Why? Because they say that I don't care because I want to watch it, and my friends also watch them too. So I think it's okay. So this is a quote that I wrote here. One of the teenagers, she was at that time 12 years old, and she watched 13 Reasons Why. At first, she claimed that she actually didn't understand about the movie itself, so she skipped a lot of parts. But then in 2020, when she had more time in watching these seasons, and she had more free time to access movies and Netflix, and the parents don't really know what she's doing, she rewatched it again, and she was shocked. She was shocked because at that time she was only 13 years old, because it was her first time exposed to suicidal things, mental health issues, drugs, rape, gun violence. And then even though she was shocked, but then she continued watching it without any guidance. So, and then, but a few of the adults also said that there are also some parents that are concerned. So, for example, some adults always had this conversation with the parents whether or not they are permitted to watch a movie or not. If the parents are aware of it, the parents will permit it and look at how old is the information rate. Is it 13 plus? Is it okay for you? But then if the parents do not really but the parents, if they have time, they will watch together with the parent, with the children, with their teenagers. But if they don't have time, they would actually watch it first, and then inform the children or their teenagers in that cases that, okay, it's okay to watch it even though it's 18 plus, because the parents have watched it and I think it is okay. When we conducted interviews to the parents, there is a unique case here, because we found out that parents who have lower education said that the content rating system is very important. Actually, it is very important, because then the parents and the children or the teenagers are aware. But then for the parents that have a higher level education actually said that the content rating system is not effective, because they think that even though it is all age, the rating is all age, but we still have violence, we still have issues that are not appropriate for teenagers or children. And then what they said that the content rating system is not important, but the most important is the guidance of the parents itself to communicate and everything like that. So what they said is that
Sari, you have 1 minute left, so maybe
okay.
Sorry.
Okay, the conclusion. All right, thank you. So, well, I'll just go through the conclusion. Is that what they say that the parents said that what I was saying? I forgot. Okay, what they said that even though it is 18 plus, but because the parents are there and they're guiding them throughout the movie, it is okay, because sometimes children have to be exposed on things like violence and things, because they need to understand where to put violence, or for example to defend themselves or anything like that. So in the contrary, some of the parents would be okay and permit them to watch these kind of movies. I think we can just close that. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry.
We can get questions from the floor, so that it will help us to understand more about your research and especially the
Okay.
presentation. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Now I will open the floor for any questions. So we have 5 minutes for the question and answer session. So I hope we can be more interactive and ask questions to each presenter. And please take the opportunity to communicate, and interact with the presenter. Any questions? Anyone want to ask question to Dr. Sri Indriani?
Can I ask question to
Yes, please. You
Dr.
can
Indriani?
introduce yourself, your name,
Yeah,
and
my name
your
is Novi
university and the
Kurnia
question.
from UGM Yogyakarta, Indonesia. I would like to ask, do you also interview the parent because the adolescent said that they claim that their parents didn't contribute to their selection, so it means that there is no kind of what is that parent supervision in choosing the gender? And do you have any kind of the findings, so the gender specific that usually chosen by the informants?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Novi. Yes, regarding to your question, I would like to answer that, yes, we did interview some parents. So some parents are, what we saw is that it is unique because for the parents that have a lower education, said that the content rating system is very important, so that the children can be aware, so the parents do not really need to look up on them, but just making sure that don't forget to look at the content rating system. But then the parents who have a higher level education said that the content rating system is not important, but the important is guidance. So from some parents, they said that they are very concerned on this, but also there are some parents that are just too hectic. Yeah, they are not ignorance actually. They just don't have that much time to think about those things because it is taken for granted. And then the children on the other case doesn't really know whether the parents are ignorant or not, because it is on their own perspective. But because of that, they think that the parents are not actually concerned with them. But then when we ask the parents, actually they are concerned, but they just don't really have that much time to go through those things. As like I said before, maybe it was taken for granted, or maybe they think that movies are not as dangerous as they go outside. So that's one. For the second question about the gender, yes, I can see that the boys seems to like anime, but then it is kind of interesting because the anime movies also have a content rating system, right? It is maybe 13 plus or 16 plus, and what they think is it's okay, it's it's not harmful because it is a cartoon or it is an anime. But what they don't know is that actually violence is wrapped in cartoon, so it doesn't seem that violence like that. Dr. Novi, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Novi, are you happy with the answer? Is that answering your question? I guess we can always communicate more after this and discuss. So maybe before we start with the third presentation, I would like to thank Dr. Sri Indriani for her interesting presentation. I guess we have learned a lot, although we only reached the second presenter, but we have exposed a lot of information today. Thank you so much. And I can see a few new participants here, so I would like to welcome those who are new to this session. I hope you can ask more questions to our presenter. Okay, without further ado, I would like to call upon the third presenter and allow me to invite Ms. Kwa Gui Chuan Chen to present their research on weak initiative smartphone use among the visually impaired people in the intelligent age. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone.
The floor is yours. You have 15 minutes. We cannot hear your voice. Are you speaking to us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, the voice is very slow. I cannot hear you well.
Okay,
Can you
you
use
speak
the
loud.
microphone?
Now, can you hear me?
I can't hear you actually. What about other participant? Can you hear the presenter?
Not really, because it's very low.
It's very low. Your voice is very low. Hello? Miss Chan, can you hear us? Can you hear me?
I think she's trying to fix the microphone.
Yeah, I think she has a bad internet connection there. It's okay. I think we can move to the next presenter first, and then we can come back to her later. Allow me to invite Dr. Inge Hutagalung. She will be presenting her research on the role of utility in information selection process of pornographic among santri in Tangerang, Indonesia. So the floor is yours.
Okay,
Dr.
thank you, Dr. Saifuddin.
Okay.
My presentation will be presented by the committee or by myself. Dr. Saifuddin, can you hear me?
Sorry, do you have any internet problem there? Are you going to present live or through the video?
No, I will have a live presentation. It will be shared. It will be shared from my computer.
Yeah, sure. You can use
Okay.
the share button and
Okay,
take
a
your
moment.
15 minutes.
A moment, I prepare it.
It's okay. Yeah.
Okay, it is already
on the screen. Yes. We can
okay.
see it. Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Before I have my presentation, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Inge Hutagalung. I come from Universitas Mercu Buana, Jakarta, Indonesia. Today, I would like to present my research with the title, The Role of Utility in Information Selection Process of Pornographic Among Santri. The background of my research is based from the data of Escape that showed Indonesia is in the second rank, assisting to videos in the world, with the biggest assessor consisting of teenagers. These conditions make adolescents closer to the permissive life, increasing number of unwanted pregnancies, as well as abortion. Pornography has a serious negative impact also because it can damage the brains and psychology individual. Based on these conditions, the research that arises is if pornography has a lot of negative impacts, why are teenagers still active seeking pornographic information via the internet? From previous studies, we can see that teens are actively looking for pornographic information because they are in puberty, who need information about the changes that occur to them. Another previous studies shown that adolescents often look for the pornographic information because low sexual knowledge is not only related to the ignorance of sexuality, but also includes not knowing where to ask questions and get trusted help. Many of the adolescents were confused about where to ask questions and had difficulty assessing appropriate sources of information regarding sex informations. Based on this preview field research, researchers show a gap to conduct research related to the pornographic information among santri. Why? In the santri environment, because it is interesting to study considering the pesantren guidance pattern that views sexual matters as sacred and should not arbitrarily access sexual informations. The location for focus of our research is a modern Islamic boarding school in the city of Tangerang. Why Tangerang? The argument for choosing Tangerang is because it is a city on the border of the capital city of Indonesia that has been known as the second country in the world with the most access to pornographic information on the internet, consisting of teenagers. The problem statement, considering that the biggest access to the pornography material in Indonesia is teenagers, who are the national next generations, deep concern need to be given to the role of information usefulness in the processing of selecting pornographic information among adolescents through a study. The methodology that used in this research is constructive paradigm as the basis of the framework, and the design using a qualitative approach with the technique of collective data is in depth interviewed. The result of my research is based from several questions. The first is about knowledge. All the participants said that pornography is information related to sexual exploitation and obscenity. Pornography as the information related to the sexual problem that are exposed in a vulgar matter. Asking about the source of information, the informant said that some got pornographic information from the internet and some got it via cell phones. And about the curiosity to knowing deeply about the pornography, all men informants expressed interest in pornography, while female informants had not desired to know and were reluctant to find out pornographic informations. About the question of utility of informations, the female informants state that the pornographic informations had no benefit at all and was misleading informations because it encouraged teenagers to engage in sexual activity and promiscuity, which is prohibited by religions. Meanwhile, men informants state that pornographic information has a benefit to increase knowledge related to sexuality, a lot of information related to the cycle development and function, including reproduction organ, that is not understood become clear after reading pornographic informations. And about question compliance with rules, all informant agree to the pesantren rules and obey all prohibitions, including the issue of pornography. The male informant emphasized that although they get a lot of information of sexuality toward pornographic information, they are subject to and obeying the pesantren regulation, which prohibited students for looking for, downloading, or collecting things related to pornography. Compliance is carried out as a form of obedience to the pesantren institution where they study, and also to avoid sanction for violating pesantren rules. And the last, about the conclusion, is first, in the case of pornography, teenagers actually need knowledge about sex, considering that sex is also related to the psychological development of adolescents. Second, group support influence the processing of information about pornography, because the deviation from the group usually will often lead to sanctions, both social, moral, or the legal sanctions. And the third, the utility of the information does not play a role in the processing of pornographic information and only serve to provide sexual knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Inge. I can say that it is a very concise presentation, very precise, and of course, this is one of the most important issues among the teenagers who, nowadays expose a lot on the internet and social media, and influence the usage of the pornography information. So we will now open the floor to question and answer session. So anyone want to ask question to Dr. Inge? By the way, Dr. Inga, you are from university, which university again?
I come from Universitas Mercu Buana, Jakarta, Indonesia.
Oh, okay. So any question from the floor? Maybe I can start first. Everyone looks like, you know, they need some time.
Okay.
Dr. Inga, is the Santri is that Santri is the religious school?
Yeah, as you know, Santri is the name to call a student who are in the Islamic boarding school.
The pesantren, is it?
Yeah, the pesantren. Islamic boarding school, sometimes we call it as a pesantren.
I see. Okay. So maybe we can get the question from the floor first, any from the participants. Let's interact. Let's let's
Can I
talk to
have
each
a
other.
question,
Yeah,
Dr. Said?
Dr. Novi, yeah. Please.
Okay, so I would like to ask two things to Dr. Inga, yeah, because it's very interesting. The first one, how these informants, the santri, define vulgar manner in terms of pornography. The second one, your research shows that female santri or female students in boarding school seems have no interest in pornography, but do you think that it is about also in terms of pornographic, women tends to be the victims or tend to be objectified? Do you think like that, Dr. Inga?
Yeah, maybe the last questions, based on my questions to the female informant, they are reluctant and seems not like to know about pornography deeply. Why? Because according to them, pornography is shown the body of women, that is a part of them, actually.
Yeah.
And does the santri victim by another that is outside the pornography issues? As I know, before I have my result, I have my pre-survey first. Then in my pre-survey, I know that pesantren, it is divided into two. The first is Salafiyah, Islamic boarding school, and the modern Islamic boarding school. The Salafiyah Islamic boarding school is an Islamic boarding school that studies the yellow books. You know, sometimes we call it in Indonesia buku kuning. In buku kuning, in highest level, they learn about pornography from the ayat-ayat Al-Quran. And sometimes in the Ramadan, they make it as one of their pemujaan, ya, not is pemujaan, but like to make more understand that a human need a sexual activities, but it is already in the highest level in the Salafiyah Islamic boarding school. In the lowest level, it is forbidden in Salafiyah Islamic boarding school to touch, especially to having the cell phone as well as the computer. And in the modern Islamic boarding school, they have a time to use the computer as well to the cell phones after Zuhur. They will have 1 hour to use their cell phone and as well as use the computer, but in under supervise of one what we call is supervisor. One supervisor will supervise around 10 students, 10 santri. It is like that, Ibu.
Yeah.
Hello.
Bu Inga, yeah, thank you. How about the definition of vulgar manner in terms of pornography among them?
According to them, vulgar manner, it will be different meanings. Some here, according to them, a moment, I will see about it. According to them, for example, seeing a breast image for someone may be considered obscene, but someone else is considered usual image. it is depend on the background of the person itself. Means that the vulgar manners here can be categorized in a common that will be have it in everybody.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Dr. Novi, Dr. Inga. Any more question, or if not, then we can move for the next presentation first, and then later on, when we wrap up, we can always come back to any more specific question. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Inga Hutagalung, for your presentation on pornography and the students in Indonesia.
You're
So we are,
welcome, Dr. Saifuddin.
yeah, thank you so much. So we are moving to the next presentation by I can say, one of the most active, participants today, Dr. Novi Kurnia. So Dr. Novi will be presenting about between children's right and parents' pride, parenting and digital literacy of Indonesian parents on social media. So Dr. Novi, you were given 15 minutes maximum to present your research, and then we will have the question and answer session. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sai. Good afternoon, all the participants. Today I will bring my research results on parenting and digital literacy in Indonesia, especially to discuss about parents' pride and also children rights. My name is Novi Kurnia. I am an associate professor from Department of Communication Science, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Indonesia, and in the similar time, I also a national coordinator of JAPILIDI, Indonesian Digital Literacy Activist Network. So I think from our panel in the morning, the keynote speakers, all the keynote speakers said that there is a disruption in digital era, and as well as actually how we raise the children in internet era. So there is a different way of raising children in internet era, and the birth of a new child often becomes the starting point for parents to share online. And in doing so, they can share a range of explicit information regarding the identities of their children, said Lever in 2017, that I quote as the, what is that argumentation that parenting is very important nowadays. And parenting is also a growing trend, because according to Wagner and Gasche, parenting is a phenomenon that can be found in any digital society today, which usually takes form in uploaded photographs and numerous social media platforms. Another expert, Blumross and also Livingstone, said that parenting comes from two important words, sharing and parenting. That's why parenting is about the activities when parents sharing information regarding their roles as parents online, which related to both the parents and the public room that provided by social media platforms. So parenting as parents' decision, we can ask about that. Because according to Steinberg, a parent's own decision to share a child's personal information online is a potential source of harm that has gone largely unaddressed. Children not only have interest in protecting negative information about themselves on their parent newsfeed, but also may not agree with a parent decision to share any personal information, negative or positive, about them in the only word. There is no opt-out link for children, and split-second decision made by their parents will result in indelible digital footprints. While adults have the ability to set their own parameters when sharing their personal information in the virtual world, children are not afforded such control over their digital footprint unless there are limits on parent. So the role of parents in digital society now, especially in share information about their children or parenting, is really important, said Steinberg. So how about parenting in Indonesia? Empirically, Indonesian parents nowadays, almost every seconds or hours, share information about their children, what they are doing, how they eat some food, how they play with other children. A lot of things about their children share in social media. sometimes they also monetize the social media with their name, especially for the social media influencers. Some of the studies regarding parenting in Indonesia said like what Nila Sari conducted in 2017 found that parents' motivation in parenting are curiosity, competence, love, self-worth, self-discovery, the values and meaning of life, as well as the needs to fulfill the self. Zahira said parenting doesn't only related to parental motivation, but also in the privacy and safety of their children that can be misused by other social media users. Children's rights and agency should be respected and understood so that they are able to form their own digital footprint. Putra Efremina said parents' motive of parenting on Instagram that were driven by two things, the experience of photo album in the past and the disruption and limitation of the technology posed by parents. Suranto said parents have a role of communicators to convey messages that lead to the development of children noble character. Based on the previous studies in parenting in Indonesia, then my study question about Indonesian parents' parenting strategies in dealing with their children information on Facebook as a most popular social media in Indonesia, including their digital literacy competence in mitigating parenting risks. So this is online survey descriptive that involved 269 respondent Facebook user that also mother or father of 1 to 5 years old children and also actively doing parenting to their Facebook account. So this is the finding. The respondents, we can see that mothers higher, the number of the mothers to be respondent is higher than the fathers. And when we see the setting, most of them already set the Facebook setting into friends only. But if we see the age, we can see that parents between 30 to 35 is the highest, almost a half of the respondent. Another finding that are become of the part of the study is about the motivation of parenting. So the respondent fill in some choice of answer, and the most favorite motivation is to document all kinds of information about their children, and then to show the process of children development, to show parental pride about their children, to receive support from family and friends, and also to show love and affection. This survey also asks the respondent about advantage and also disadvantage of parenting. So the advantage is related with the motivation before. The first one is to assist documenting children growth and development as parents. Second one is to simplify the relationship with family and friends, especially one separated by distance. Third one is to be aware of their role as parents. And the last one is to receive social support from friends on Facebook. And the disadvantage, actually, they know that certain things also create disadvantage for children, like disturbing children privacy, the number one. Second one is causing to harm children because their private information have been uploaded on their parents' social media. Children could receive negative judgment, children could be assaulted, children could feel embarrassed, and there is a potential of crime for children. So when the study also measure the digital literacy competence in parenting risk mitigation, we can see that the one that is in consideration of the parents that become the study respondent is to protect children in appropriate situation. Second one, to protect children personal identity. Third one, to protect children physical and mental condition. The fourth one is to protect of children privacy. The fifth one, to protect children misbehavior. Sixth one, about the frequency of parenting. They aware, the respondent aware that they have to consider the frequency of parenting. The seventh one, the needs of parenting only in children's important moments, not every time. The eighth one is the protection of children unwell when they are sick, photographs and video. And about the consent, they do a very in the what is that the almost the lowest ring, always the lowest rank, the needs of children consent, and the last one is the protection of children face identity. So this is the consideration when they ask to be consider the risk mitigation that shows the competence of digital literacy in parenting, especially in related with sharing information. So some notes that I can conclude for this study is most of respondents are mothers. That implies to further support that stereotype that parenting is solely the mother responsibility, including in online digital media. The advantage is relevant to parent motivation in parenting that are documentation, social support, confirmation, and connection. While in terms of disadvantage, the violation of children's rights and privacy, as well as other risks such as children's safety, is important to be noted. This study shows that documenting children information in social media is part of parents' pride in parenting. However, their digital literacy competence in mitigating its risk is part of protecting their children's rights and privacy, as well as their digital footprint that is not only important now, but also in the future. Suggestion for future research regarding parenting in Indonesia is an ethnographic study that includes parents of all backgrounds, looking at socioeconomic class, access to information and education, social standing, whether they are stay-at-home parents or working parent. Just additional information that this research study is also used as a base for digital literacy programs. The first one is kind of a essay, popular essay to give strategies in dealing with parenting. And the second one is a TV talk show that can be accessed also in YouTube that also invite parents to be more careful in parenting, because we as parents create digital footprints and responsible to raise children wisely in social media. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Novi. Again, another interesting topic, something that is not maybe familiar to some of us, especially like me. Parenting is something not so much being exposed to me, but I guess this is an opportunity, a golden opportunity to the participant to ask more questions to Dr. Novi. So I will open the floor to any questions, please.
Okay, Dr. Saifuddin.
Yes, Dr.
Okay,
Inga.
yeah, it is not a questions for Dr. Novi, but I support her research to give a comment. Is okay?
That's okay, Dr. Inga.
Okay, yes, I agree with you, Dr. Novi. Why? Because the position of children on what is presented by the mass media is very weak. This is related to the nature of the children itself. The first, as we know, children is a very difficult to distinguish good or bad informations or impression, which one deserve to be or which one deserve to be imitated or ignored. And the second, we know that children do not have self-censorship and do not have value limit. And the third, we know that children who get information and impression through the mass media tend to be passive and uncritical. As the result, all the information and impressions obtained from the mass media will be considered normal. These characters are particularly vulnerable if the information or impression received through the mass media have any anti-social smell, such as violence or pornography. Moreover, the quality of the shows that are broadcast, for example, on the television, is generally not in favor of children. As well as we know, a few years ago, there is a Smackdown. The Smackdown, you know, the Smackdown television's program, that it is appear to the child imitate free fighting demonstrations like a shadow boxing or the fighter, but actually it's not in like that. It is my comment for your presentation. Good luck, and I hope that you will have your further research to know deeply or to gain deeply about protection for our children and teen. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Inge. I just give a short comment. Yeah, in terms
please,
of
Dr.
digital
Novi.
literacy, children is a kind of important because they don't have any minor safety. So we are as
Yes.
adult and parents have to have a safety for them. Children as
Yes.
object for information or
Yeah.
children as media digital user. So we have to be kind of careful to invite them to be part of our digital interaction nowadays.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
I
thank you,
agree with
Dr. Novi.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Inge and Dr. Novi. I guess the finding is quite similar to Dr. Sri finding just now on the emphasis, not really the finding, I think the emphasis on
Yeah, the
the role
emphasis,
of
yes.
the role of parents, you know, in
Yes.
monitoring the activity
Yes, I was
of the
going to ask.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Sri, maybe
To
you can ask
ask
the question in
if
a way.
I'm
Okay.
able.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is very interesting and it really relates on me as a parent as well, because
Exactly.
I also I have a baby too, and then I have this I want to show the world my baby, but then
But your baby
we
not
try
yet
to
watch the
okay.
television.
Yeah, I know, but then we can see that our emotions, like it's very hard to commit on that, because then we see other parents that they are priding their children as well. And then so I would like to ask to Dr. Novi, what should parents do if they already have done that? Like how can we what kind of solution we can do as a parent if we have already done those kind of showing 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 our babies to the world like that.
Okay, I think there is a consideration that we have to think about the children. Yeah, if you can talk with the children, then ask their concern. Do you like when I would like to upload this picture? Show them this picture. Can I upload to Facebook? 2 until 5 years old children, usually they can talk, and they usually also involved with YouTube and also other social media platform. So you have to ask them if they already can discuss something with you. And the second one that important is limitation. As a parent, I know I also a parent, even though my daughter is already 25 years old, but I'm also a parent, and I always limit my information about my daughter, and I always ask her since she was 5 or 6. Yeah, I always ask her when I would like to share information about her until now, because if not, yeah, she can be angry with me because she know that she has the right. But not every children know, and not every parents would like to limit the information. So based on our consideration, that's the first thing, because yes, it seems that we own the children, but actually the children will own their own digital footprint, because right now digital footprint is very important. If the children would like to later on to move on a few years later, then if there is something that are not necessary in the social media, we can still track, because if we upload something that it still can be digital footprint, even though we already deleted later. So we have to be careful, I think.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much, Dr. Novi.
You're welcome, Dr. Sai.
The discussion getting more interactive and interesting. Because I think there is a connection between these three research. As someone listening to the presentation, I think you three have a very connection in terms of your research. And thank you for the tips for the future parents like me. Maybe in the future,
I give you the link of YouTube. If you know Indonesian language, then you can see the dialogue, because
we can
there is
contact each other.
conversation with the audience of the television public broadcasting in
Okay,
Indonesia.
that would be fantastic, because I think as a parent, sometimes like you said, they feel that they own the children, but without getting the consent, you know, like the agreement whether the children are okay or not to upload something, and unfortunately it will leave digital footprint that maybe influence the future of the children. That's a very strong message from you. We will get back if we have time. Thank you so much, Dr. Novi and Dr. Inge and Dr. Sri for this interactive Q&A session. So we are moving to our second last presenter. And just now we have four, presentation from Indonesian context. Now we have an opportunity to get sort of a bit different context from the Malaysian presenter, which is Miss Norhani. I assume Miss Norhani is our PhD student at the School of Communication, UC Science Malaysia, right? So I'm also excited to hear your presentation as much as I'm excited so much today to hear other presentations. So without further ado, I will give the floor to you, Miss Norhani. We cannot hear your voice. Is there any problem with the mic? Yeah, no sounds. Anyone can hear Miss Norhani? Dr. Novi, can you hear her? Dr.
Not yet.
Oh, not yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Then it's not the problem from my side, I guess. Tak ada suara.
Doktor, Nabil here.
Yeah, Mr. Nabil.
Puan Norhani, saya rasa she gave a video.
Yep.
But she's supposed to play first lah. But if she doesn't play in the next 1 minute, I can play for you guys lah.
So maybe we can play her video presentation first, and then we get back to her for the Q&A session.
Okay, sure. I play now, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Nabil.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good afternoon, everyone. How's your day so far? Hopefully we can gain something from today's session. Okay, my name is Norhani binti Muhammad Jais. I am a master student from USM, currently in my 3rd semester. Okay, my topic today is about generational trends in the emerging media consumption, perspective of the generational cohort theory. Okay, with the advancement of media technologies, okay, we can access a lot of information using different type of media. Okay, however, the main role of media is still the same. It is a tool to communicate and convey information to the public. Okay, a research by MCMC, Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commission, they found that 87% of Malaysian population use the internet, especially the social media and text communication like WhatsApp and Telegram. However, these users are mostly from the younger generation. The older generation, when asked why they didn't want to use this new media, due to reason of difficulty, and they simply doesn't have interest to use the new media. Okay. This media consumption is a very important characteristic in defining generational cohort. Okay, we usually use the term like baby boomers, Gen Y, Gen Z, and everything. These generation have their own characteristic. A part of it is using media consumption. For instance, like Gen Y and Gen Z, we usually associated them with generation with more technology savvy, because they have been exposed to a variety type of media. Okay. Besides, sorry. Okay. Uh, Besides, the media also plays a role in transmitting information regarding specific historical event. Okay. For instance, during the 9/11 incident, the media heavily portray and repeatedly plays the video of the aeroplane going to the tower. Okay. Somehow, that particular image become embedded in the mind of the people, usually people, especially people in the US. Okay. So, my research, the objective of my research is about to determine the role of media in defining the racial cohort of Malaysia. And specifically, I want to identify what type of media being used by national in Malaysia, and to investigate the differences of media usage across the nation in Malaysia. Okay. Basically, this generational cohort theory is a theory introduced by sociologist scholar named Carl Mayhem in 1952. Okay, the basis of this theory is that a historical event that happened during one's formative year will influence the formation of a generation. Okay, formative year. A lot of scholars debate about it, but mostly they say is it come as early as 12 up to 25 or 27. Okay, so any historical event, major event that happened during that formative year usually will influence one belief, attitude, and values. Okay. For instance, baby boomers are always associated with the post-World War II or Vietnam War. Okay, so this particular generation usually they have certain values, like more, they value more on peace because they have been fought during World War II, and and other characteristic. Okay, so in order for any historical event to be felt by the society, here's come the role of the media. Okay, the media plays a role in reporting a news or reporting an event to the public. Okay. General cohort in Malaysia. We always use the term from the Western. Okay. However, that term they associated with their specific historical event. Okay. If we want to adopt it in Malaysian perspective, we need to associate that label of generation with the historical event happened in Malaysia. Okay. These are some scholars in Malaysia who done a research and trying to define the racial cohort in Malaysia. Okay. The label or the name somehow is same and somehow different, but the characteristic is about the historical event. Okay, like for instance, the research by Ting, Duran and Pham, they identify the betting lifers, those who are born before 1945. Okay, so this generation, they experience the Japanese occupation. Okay, so they remember a lot and experience a lot of difficulty during this Japanese occupation. Okay. Other researchers also identify other generation. For instance, like the latest one by Sharifuddin. Okay. He mentioned about the pre-independence, post-independence. It's basically the same like Ting and Iran farm research. It's about the associated with the Japanese occupation, communists and everything. Like other example of event like the launching of the first national car. Usually those people who are boomers will remember this particular event. Okay. Actually this research done in quantitative method. Actually this research adopt quantitative method. Okay, so basically I created a link in SurveyMonkey and distributed it online. Okay, from July until September. Okay, the population based on the Malaysian population. Okay, and using cluster sampling technique. So I basically divided the population to 5 regions and then search for the particular range of age. Okay, so the media consumption using the media and technology usage and attitude scale by Rosen and Welling. Okay, these are the results. These are the summary of demography. As you can see that there are 1,526 respondents participate in the research. Mostly are female, and they come from different education level and income. Okay, so this I want to identify what type of media being used by generation in Malaysia. As you can see from the graph, the highest would be the communication apps like WhatsApp and Telegram, followed by television, internet, and other social media like Facebook, YouTube, and everything. Okay, so we know that communication app is the highest. These are the 5 the most media being consumed by Malaysian. So we divided by generation. Okay, as we can see that communication apps being used across generation. However, mostly the highest would be from the younger generation, Gen Y and Gen Z. Okay. However, for television is still higher in the older generation. Okay, and it keep decreasing until the Gen Z. Okay, so I want to see the differences between generation cohort in terms of media consumption. So we know that there is a differences between generation on the media consumption. However, how different is that mean differences? Okay, as you can see here, the superscript, the small letter at the end of the number will determine whether there is differences between generation or not. For example, for television, across generation, there's no differences. However, Gen Z shows the differences with all other generation. Okay, even though the mean is higher for Gen X, however, the mean actually doesn't mean anything. Okay, the main differences is only from the Gen Z. Okay, the next example will be from the internet. As you can see, the small letter will be A, B, C, D. Okay, so basically the differences happen from all generation. However, the differences for generation post-independence generation and Gen Z generation, sorry, for the Gen Y and Gen Z generation, the differences doesn't occur. Okay, so the result, we can see that older generation relies more on the traditional media. Okay, and like television, and the younger generation, they are more adaptive to the current media technologies. However, the older generation is catching up with the trend too by using other emerging media such as search engine and social media. Okay, you can see that, for example, the Gen X and pre-independence start.
Okay, I think Mr. Nabi can stop first the video. We have reached 15 minutes.
Extensive usage of social media.
Okay, maybe later on, Ms. Nurhani can further answer the question from the floor. Any question for this presentation? Anyone want to ask question to Ms. Nurhani?
Can I?
Yes, sure. We are always welcome anyone to ask question. Thank you for being interactive.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nurhani. I would like to ask about two questions. Yeah, the first one, why the younger media users also interested in television in Malaysia? In which program they are interested, even though it's less than other media, but they still on television. So, what kind of television programs that they are interested in? The second one, how about Instagram and TikTok? What's about the condition in Malaysia now? Because in Indonesia, Instagram and TikTok getting higher, the media user that use that two kind of thing of social media. So can you explain the state of condition nowadays in Malaysia? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Novi. Ms. Nohani? Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Okay,
Dengar?
Alhamdulillah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
changing my device. I'm using my phone right now.
It's okay.
Okay.
This is the beauty of online things, right? We have to bear with this kind of communication
Yes,
barrier
yes,
and we can
yes.
have a fruitful discussion. Please,
Yes.
if you have
Okay.
any answer.
Thank you, Dr. Novi, for your question. As for the first question is about what?
Television. Why
Oh,
we are
yes,
so
yes.
interested in
Yeah.
television? Which kind of programs?
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, in my questionnaire, we doesn't ask further about the program, but before we ask for the quantitative one, we go for qualitative and ask them about the kind of program they watch. Mostly the younger generation, the one who watch television, they doesn't have that particular favorite television program. They just watch for the sake of, like, for the background sound or something like that. Okay, mostly they doesn't have that particular television program that they love to watch. Okay, as for the Instagram and TikTok, for now in Malaysia, for my research, it shows that a lot of younger generation log into this particular social media, and TikTok is currently catching up Instagram. Instagram is more like people like to do online businesses. They more like to shop in IG shop, something like that. For TikTok, yes, currently they are getting a lot of younger generation try to use that particular social media.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay,
Dr.
Doctor.
Ida,
Yeah.
if I have any
Okay.
question, I'm so lucky, you know, as a moderator.
Okay,
My
Doctor.
session is very lively. Okay, please.
Okay, Miss Nur Hani, is very interesting to know about your research. Why? Because sometimes the old generations love to have the mainstream media.
Yes.
But in the opposite, the youngest, I mean the generations millennial is closer with the media, social, like internet, Instagram, and others. My questions is, do you have any information? What is the cause of difference between the media consumption of each generation? What is make they are different to use the media? Do you have any information?
Oh, okay. I mentioned before that we go for qualitative, right? Before we go for this whole world, this Malaysian collecting data for quantitative. For there's some for the older generation, they mentioned that some of the older generation, they doesn't even have the smartphone over there. Yeah. Besides from the research for MCMC for Malaysian communication, they mentioned as well that the older generation find it is difficult to learn to use this social media. Okay, for like currently there's a cases like for vaccination in Malaysia, we have like this apps My Sejahtera. They book for vaccination, but they didn't come for that injection because mostly that doesn't come for the appointment, mostly come from the older generation. Their their daughters and son only registered them, but they don't know how to use that particular apps.
Okay.
Means that the point is because they weakness to learn about the how to use the software, yeah, of the what is called the social media itself. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Rohani. It's always good to know something new from generation theory. I personally really want to explore this theory because, you know, in that theory, it concluded that every generation has a very different kind of thing, but somehow your research found differently. Like, although they are different generation, they might actually consume or use similar kind of media, for example, to gain a certain information. We are almost finished the presentation for today, and we have the last presenter, right? Don't worry, we are not forgetting you. We will come back to you, Ms. Chan. So now I would like to invite Ms. Chan to present their research on weak initiative smartphone use among the visually impaired people in the intelligent age. And I hope we can hear your voice now.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
I hope my internet is stable.
It's stable now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
It's
so
good to
everyone
it's
can
good to
hear
do
me?
it.
Oh, okay, okay. Now I will share my screen.
Yeah. Please take your 15 minutes to present. Okay.
Okay,
The floor is yours.
yeah. Okay. Uh, First, let me introduce myself. I'm Chen Guichuan from Communication University of China, and the topic of my paper today is Weak Initiative, Smartphone Use Among the Visually Impaired People in the Intelligent Age. First of all, please allow me to introduce the background of the research. It is known that the researches about information haves and have-nots could trace back to knowledge gap hypothesis of the 1970s and the digital divide of the late 1990s. Today, some scholars have put forward the concept of artificial intelligence gap. I describe it as from the knowledge gap to the digital divide and finally the AI divide. In reality, during the COVID-19 epidemic, we often see in the news in China, the elderly will not use digital intelligent devices. For example, a 94-year-old man was carried to the bank just in order to finish the face recognition, which shows that the elderly, the disabled, the visually impaired, and other information vulnerable groups in China have fallen into the intelligence divide. In our research, based on the theory of structural agency, we find that the information have-nots present a kind of weak initiative in terms of smart device usage. To have a sharp insight into the internet usage habits and problems of the information have-nots, our research team conducted an in-depth interview with 10 visually impaired people, and we selected 20 mainstream apps from 10 categories for the visually impaired users to collect usage feedback. After a week, we conducted an in-depth interview with them. After collecting the interview date, we applied the verbal to disposal and adopted the grounded theory to analyze. Finally, 97 initial categories about the use of smartphone use were obtained through open coding. After axial coding, we got 9 secondary categories and 3 main categories, namely software facilities, cognition, and behavior. In the face of selective coding, we explain the relationship between 3 theoretical themes and weak initiative. Then, 2 interviews date was reserved to carry out the theoretical saturation test. And it was found that there was no new factor within each category. Based on the above analysis, we put forward the following 3 research questions. First, what is the performance of the weak initiative of the visually impaired in terms of smartphone application usage? Second, why do the visually impaired show weak initiative in the use of smartphone applications? 3, how to deal with such weak initiative in China? Now, let us go to the research findings. The research findings can be divided into 3 aspects: the performance of the weak initiative, the reasons of the weak initiative, and the proposals to deal with the weak initiative. First, from cognition and behavior, these 2 aspects, the performance of weak initiative in this study was elaborated. The aspects of cognition also can be divided to cognition of information and cognition of function. In terms of cognition of information, the research found that many visually impaired users have binary judgments about internet information. That is, the internet information in their rise is either beneficial or harmful. In terms of cognition of function, visually impaired users have a relatively shallow understanding of the functions of such applications, which includes the social applications they frequently use. At the same time, this study also found that visually impaired people have paradoxical statements and polarized evaluations about the barrier-free design of smartphone applications. And the aspects of behavior departs to information access, online communication, information interacting and sharing, as well as information screening and searching. In terms of information access, AI divide is drastically apparent. The field of intelligent application consumption for this visually impaired is relatively concentrated, and the problem of superficial information consumption is prominent, as well as the traditional interpersonal communication channel is heavily dependent. In terms of online communication, we found that some rules of social circle delineation exist in the intelligent application using habit of these visually impaired people. And the strong tie occupies a predominance in their cyberspace social interactions, and there is no weak tie. It means online communication circle of these visually impaired people still consists of their offline acquaintances and other visually impaired friends. They even tend to consult other visually impaired users when encountering using barriers rather than those who are more convenient to operate. The information interacting and sharing characters can be summarized to no comment, no sharing, and no discussion. In terms of the information screening and searching, we found that people with visual impairment opt to end-use behavior rather than further verifying the information when encountering information uncertainty. At the same time, they are also passive in mastering or improving new online skills. Secondly, this paper summarizes the dual mechanism of big initiative. Namely, there are two inducements of big initiative. One is structural factor and the other is individual factors. The structural factor includes the aspects of information, technology, barrier-free system and regulations, and cultural environment. We found that the subject's application use behavior is mainly in through to technical problems. This is the first key point of the structural factor, and the immature barrier-free system and regulations in China, and the cultural environment that respecting and valuing these people's demand in China has not yet found. the individual factor includes the circle identity, social interaction habits, deep learning, and independent exploration abilities. In terms of circle identity, we found that visually impaired people have some characters of a small world in social interaction and smartphone utilization. For example, they tend to seek help from somebody inside the circle who is visually impaired, as well as when they encounter obstacles. In terms of social interaction habits, the online communication of the individuals with disabilities is primarily based on strong ties. And in terms of deep learning and independent exploration abilities, people with visually impairment commonly lack the ability of deep learning and independent exploration in the process of application utilization. In other words, their initiative to solve problems is insufficient, and when encountering difficulties, they tend to abandon rather than work out. Finally, how to solve this weak initiative? This paper believes that currently China is not paying enough attention to the intelligent application utilization of information have nodes. Although the intelligent applications have penetrated people's daily life as an information infrastructure, particularly reflecting on the lack of unified structure standards, the dispersed manner of internet enterprises, and the lack of specific standards for the of intelligent applications. Therefore, the construction of unified standards, the development of content identification technology, information literacy education, as well as learning and training can be breakthroughs for improvement. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Chen. What a very interesting presentation from you. And finally, we managed to hear from you, although we are facing some internet problem at before this. So okay. I would like to invite anyone. If you have any question, you can ask Ms. Chen now. Maybe before that, maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit again. Which university are you from? And are you the lecturer or students?
Yeah, I'm a postgraduate from Communication University of China.
Ah, okay. That's a very, very interesting, because we have the opportunity to, exchange our research today. So any question from the floor? Anyone want to ask question to our last presenter?
Can I have questions?
Yes, Dr. Novi.
Let's have questions.
Please.
Okay, the first one, I'm interested in the term using terms of weak initiative, and you said that there is a structural barrier as well as individual barriers. So which one that's more challenging? That's the first question, the individual or the structural barrier. And the second one, can you little bit tell me or tell us about digital literacy movement in China? That's the second question. Thank you.
The first question is, which one is more important?
More challenging.
More challenging. Which one and which one?
Yeah. Which one between the individual barriers and the structural barriers in China? Which one is more challenging to be kind of get the solution on it?
Oh, I think the individual factors is more challenging for them, because the people with visual impairment, they have some obstacles to get into our society. They need the society to help them a lot. So in China, the individual factor is more challenging for us to obstacle. Okay. And the second question is some improvement to deal with these obstacles in China, right? In China, we have some organizations to train them, and the government will provide money to support these programs. And we are many programs and many people to join in this work to help these people to get a better life in the digital age. I think. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other question before we make a short wrap up for this session? And I would like to welcome our convener, Associate Professor Dr. Juliana, who also joining us for this session. Any question?
I go from one room to another.
Yeah, okay,
just to make sure that everything is good.
Yeah, we have a very fantastic and engaging session for this virtual room 3. I'm also very happy as a moderator. We have a very positive and engaging discussion among all presenters and the participants.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, if there's no more question, maybe if you have any last question for any presenter, because just now in between of presentation, there are some presenter maybe lack of time to explain further on the question, or if any one of you want to have a quick sharing or what, you can have 1 minute maybe. Anyone, any presenter or anyone want to ask more question?
I have a question for Dr. Novi.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Novi, you asked the mom in Indonesia about the shirting, right? What is they consider as extreme behavior for shirting?
Okay, actually, my respondent is not only moms but also daddies, yeah, or father as well. And the most problematic information that share in online social media is about the identity, especially children identity, full name. Sometimes it's about the home address, and sometimes about with whom the children at home. So it's kind of give information, even though it's not in one posting, but maybe in different posting. So the leader can see a personal information and they can have kind of a crime intention if they like to, yeah. So that's a very problematic, and it can be kidnapping, or maybe, or sometimes using photograph for the what is it, pedophile. So children photograph for pedophile also becomes the problematic as well. So be careful to share your children picture or videos.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I think, ladies and gentlemen, finally we come to the end of our presentation today. You know, we have heard a lots of interesting presentation. We have engaged a lot with the discussion. Thank you so much as a moderator. I would like to take the opportunity to say thanks again to all presenters for the informative and interesting presentation, and also my sincerely thanks to the all audience for keep on staying in this session and for your active participation. Hopefully the presentation today will be beneficial for everybody here, and as much as you know, the conference meant for exchanging a lot of information, something new, learning from other people. So I hope the session today will benefit to all of us. And don't forget to keep in touch to each other, because this is the platform where we know about each other and get more collaboration in the future. So thank you so much for your kind attention, and I think we can have a group photo before we end the session. Okay, can all of you, if you have any if you have stable internet, maybe you can open your camera, then we can have a group photo. Yeah, Dr. Juliana, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just going to say I'm going to remind about tomorrow's workshop, which is going to be at 9 o'clock with Professor Abdul Karim Alias. So I really hope that you can join us and also get your co-author and also the co-author or your corresponding author, because they also have the ID to access the system to join the conference, to join the workshop. And I just want to say that Professor Karim Alias, he was voted by Clarivate Analytics as one of the most scientific mind. So yeah, and he's very popular here in Malaysia, especially with the different way, yeah, the different way to the learning in this era. So I really hope you can come and join our session tomorrow morning at 9. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
In the main forum or in the other?
In the workshop. When you go, when you go out, you will see different rooms, it will be in the workshop.
Workshop, yeah.
Workshop.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you, Dr.
alright.
Juliana.
Yeah, see you
Thank
tomorrow.
you, Associate Professor Dr. Joanna, for the reminder. I also want to reiterate that we hope that all of you can join us if you are available, and don't forget to invite your co-authors to join us together. Before I forget, I would like to take the opportunity to thank our timekeeper, Miss Gayatri, who has done a fantastic job, set up the WhatsApp group for us, helping you with some technical things. And also thank you so much to Mr. Nabil, one of our lecturers in School of Communication, for helping for the technical aspect as well, to ensure that our presentation today is going smooth, and we finally done it very well. Okay, let's take a group photo. Congratulations to all of you. Let's take a group photo and keep this memory together. Okay, maybe.
Okay, my laptop don't have camera, so nama itu nak
Okay,
keluar.
it's okay, Miss Kaya. Mr. Nabil, are you here? Maybe some of them want to see Mr. Nabil face. He's also our lecturer in the School of Communication from Film and Broadcasting, right, Mr. Nabil? Associate Professor Dr. Juliana, can you open your camera? What about this strange number? Who is this? Maybe if you have camera with you, I don't know who is this. Okay. Hi. Finally, we can see your face. So let's have the photo. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Another one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I will share the photo in our WhatsApp group. Okay, don't leave the group first, because I will share the photo to you. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Have a fantastic evening. Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Said.
Bye. Let's
Thank
contact
you
each other.
all.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.